Bust it.
A good day to you out there. We thank you for always remaining with us. It is time for Political Platform, your program on Ray Power. The weather in Abuja this morning is slightly sunny, but not too much heat. And even in the night, the heat reduced a little bit compared with what it was several days ago. But not in the terrain of politics. The heat is on. 2019 election heat is already on and is being felt in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Yesterday, President Muhammadu Buhari convened a meeting between himself and the governors elected on the platform of the All Progressive Congress, APC. It was not just an ordinary meeting. It was to brainstorm on how to ward off internal infighting over the fate of the current members of the National Working Committee and other elected officers at all levels, ward, local government, and state. But the meeting was characterized by fireworks and heated arguments. At the end of it all, the meeting was deadlocked. Leaders were polarized into two camps on the fate of John Oyegun, the national chairman of the party. The governors, in particular, broke into camps, with some pushing for Oyegun's retention, while others pushed for a replacement after his tenure and those of others end in June. The meeting, held behind closed doors, took place inside the council chambers of the Aso Rock Presidential Villa. It lasted for exactly 1.5 hours. Well, the information from that meeting and from those who attended, insiders said the cause was those who are pushing for the retention of Oyegun was based on the fact that if there is an election today to elect new national leaders of the APC, the leader of the party, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, may have his way, and they are afraid that if he should produce the national leaders of the party, then he will be controlling the party indirectly, and that was the root of the polarization that was witnessed yesterday. Also yesterday, John Oyegun inaugurated a technical committee on the controversy over the elongation of his tenure. You will recall that first, the party decided to elongate his tenure by one year. Not just himself, also all leaders, both elected and appointed at all levels of the party. But at the last NEC meeting, the party had two National Executive Committee meetings within a month. And at the last one last week, President Muhammadu Buhari advised the party that the issue of tenure elongation is unconstitutional, and that necessitated the setting up of a technical committee which was inaugurated yesterday by the national chairman of APC, John Oyegun. He said the issues to address had legal and political implications for the party. In his words, your job is to bring these issues, that is both legal and political, together and advise the party on the way we can implement our activities in the next few weeks in a way that is politically advantageous to APC. Loaded language. The committee is headed by the Plateau State Governor, Simon Lalong. The platform is full. I have here Uju Ejeye. It's on the platform.
Adebayo Bodunri, I really do not envy
the APC at this point in time, not when the leader of the party, if you talk about the president, says something, and then some other persons are also considering their own interests. And I think it's a game of interest at play right now. Those who think, oh, if Bola Ahmed Tinubu has his way, then when he controls the machinery, maybe we have not been loyal to him, he may not be favor us. And it's, you know, when you look at that, it's all about the second term syndrome. That's what is at play here. And then, you know, but let's see how it plays out. But I really wonder if they can go against the leader of the party, who is the president, and what he wants.
Amechi Anakwe is also on the platform.
Thank you, Adebayo. Very interesting times for the APC. I'm beginning to see manifestation publicly of the cracks within the party all along. No wonder the party has not been able to hold very important meetings since they came into power. It tells you that the problems had been there, but somehow they were managing it, but it's getting close to election and it's beginning to come to the fore. My concern is that it's too close to election. They quickly need to resolve their differences in good time to begin to prepare for the primaries. By October, November, a candidate from the party should be in place and begin to make preparations for campaigns. But talking about the meeting that held at the Villa yesterday, a president taking a position, the governors taking a different position. Before then, we knew that the governors wanted the status quo in APC to remain because they wanted to control the structures of the party within their state. They believe that any attempt to change it now close to election may have some negative influence on their foothold on the party. So let's see how it plays out. A governor a president makes a statement, and some others will want to counter it. It happened in 2003 when former President Obasanjo wanted to run and some governors countered him. He had to kneel down to beg. Will this president kneel down? Let's wait and see.
Well, Obasanjo has to beg. Those of us who as reporters were on this, were in Abuja for 3 days, moving from one place to another. We see how the president humbled himself, at least at that moment, moving from one house to the other to speak with the governors, because the governors seemed to have resolved at that time that they will probably prefer Atiku Abubakar, and Obasanjo has to move from house to house begging. And it's not the first time when governors were having that kind of power. If you recall, even in the Electoral Republic, the late MK Abiola preferred to choose a Christian candidate from the north as his running mate. But the governors stood their ground, and the SDP governors of those days, headed by Segun Oshoba, insisted that it must be Baba Gana Kinkimbe, and MK Abiola, who also need their support, who want them to help me seek for votes, has no other option than to succumb to their pressure. So the governors are indeed becoming powerful. Shola Jaisimi is also on the platform.
Yes, Adebayo Bodri, like you just said with my colleague Dr. Amechi Anakwe, the governors are a real block in any political setting. They determine how things are done to a very large extent. Party leaders have a way of rubbing the back of these governors to ensure that probably they have their own staying power. But the situation in APC now is very delicate, and if it's not properly managed, there could be a challenge for that party.
Mustafa Mohammed is on the platform.
You know, I've said on this platform that the APC governors might come out and say they have endorsed the president, but a lot of them have other agendas. And Nigerians should wish to know that it's no longer about campaigning the party and political promises both the elected officials of the party and unelected officials of the party made during the campaign. How much of their promises have they fulfilled? And now it's not just about controlling the party. They are also afraid of the electorate because they know that the electorate no longer trusts them. Look at Nigeria. How much improvement have we had since the last general election? You travel around Nigeria, you see poverty, lack of infrastructure. The leaders are not in touch with the grassroots and people who elected them. Now, Nigerians are rushing to get their permanent voters card. No matter what policies they do at the party level, whether it's APC or PDP or the proposed mega party, the truth of the matter is the electorate will have an upper hand during the election. So they should also look at their campaign promises and see if they can still redeem themselves before the next general election.
The permanent voters card is becoming a very big tool. If you go to churches on Sunday or you go to the mosques on Friday, you will see the admonition almost on weekly basis to Nigerians to go and obtain their permanent voters card. And I think in a way, even on the social media, is also there. And in a way, the job
they
of
use some pictures and videos to lure people into going for their voters register. They will start with short video, and it will break abruptly, only for a person to come up to advise you to quickly go and get registered.
Ejomo Samo is our ear and eye at the Independent National Electoral Commission. It seems as if INEC is getting support from other quarters this time around in mobilizing the electorate.
Thank you, Boduri. I think it is not just the job of INEC to educate to educate the people to go out and get registered. The political parties should do that too, because it is for their benefit. And if at this moment they have taken the campaign to churches, to the markets, and to different parts of the country, it tells you that Nigerians they now know better. If everybody has a voter card, it will be very difficult for any politician to come in there and manipulate votes, because you will stand for what you believe. It is because people don't come out to vote during elections. That's why they can fill in the gap with the numbers they have, because they look at the number of registered voters. They can as well put figures to match it. It's not going to be business as usual, according to this new INEC. We just hope that they get it right. And on the part of the political party, Nigerian politicians should believe in their parties, because party supremacy is number one, no matter the class or the person you are. Look at what happened in South Africa. Ramaphosa and other members of the party pulled down their president the then president, because they knew that he wasn't active. Can we have an APC as a party to sit down and say, this governor is not doing well, let's bring him down? So the issue and the crisis that they're having in the party now, if they handle it well, it will go a long way to help them. But they should also remember that the party is supreme. Even if you are a governor or president, you should bow when you come to a NEC meeting to the authorities, and the authority is the political party.
There are indications that President Muhammadu Buhari may depart for London on Monday. He is to attend to some private matters. There are no official indications on the nature of the private matters. The presidency is also here to speak officially on his trip. But his trip is ahead of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting slated for London from April 15 to 20. You will recall last year that President Muhammadu Buhari was in London for several months to receive medical treatment for an undisclosed ailment. And we'll be joined later after the mails by Dr. Shima Amadi. Dr. Shima Amadi is the Executive Director of Independent Service Delivery Monitoring Group. His group is a center for transparency advocacy. We'll be taking a look at electoral matters, the war of wars among our leaders, and other relevant political issues. Now, take your mails.
It's the mail segment, and I'm Amaka Okoro.
I am Osaitin Yari. Welcome.
We'll begin with a reaction on the released list of the names of looters, and it's coming from Matthew Meme from Lagos State. The mail reads, "Dear political platform, I'm yet to understand the reason for the hue and cry by the People's Democratic Party members on the non-inclusion of the names of former PDP members who are now in the APC. The simple thing for them to do is to forward the records of their criminal activities to the federal government, because they worked for PDP. The party has recorded their activities when they were in the PDP. If federal government fails to publish their names, like others, after due investigation, they can now publish it in the newspapers for the world to see. PDP should blow the whistle now. May God continue to bless Nigeria.
Wale in Abeokuta, Ogun State says, when President Buhari and the APC made fight against corruption a campaign issue in the 2015 election, many people were deceived and voted, not knowing it was just a means to demonize the PDP so that Buhari can win the election. After the election, they continued with the deceit by looking for any flimsy excuse to arrest, detain and charge members of the opposition to court for alleged corruption, hoping it would help them. Now that elections is approaching again, they have raised the decibel, hoping to make their fight against corruption a campaign issue once again in 2019. That is why the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, is now publishing a list of looters of the Treasury made up of only members of the opposition party. Buhari's government is not fighting corruption, but the opposition party, using the rules of a fight against corruption. Nigerians have said it loud and clear that the fight against corruption is not their number one priority now, but widespread poverty, hunger, unemployment, and general insecurity of lives and properties are the issues bothering the people, which unfortunately the Buhari APC government has demonstrated its inability to solve.
Anungozi Okoronkwo in Abuja writes on the continuous voter registration exercise and says, INEC has announced today as the commencement of the second phase of the continuous voter registration, and many Nigerians are yet to be registered as a result of inadequate manpower from INEC. I urge the electoral body to deploy more personnel and machines to more centers while urging Nigerians to turn out en masse to get their voter cards ahead of 2019 elections.
Away from that, Hakeem Kazim in Lagos says, now that President Buhari has decided to stand up for something and jettison the phrase of belonging to everybody and to nobody, I sincerely hope and pray he would have the courage and wisdom to go all the way to sanitize the APC and his government and stop the attempt to build something on nothing. He can still turn around the fortune of his party and government for good and remove the toga and cobwebs of impunity, illegality, lame excuses and incompetence that has characterized this administration. Nigerians are tired of this lethargic, slow and laid-back manner of handling matters, especially of grave national interest. I pray he extricates and exorcises himself from the demons of hyenas, jackals, locusts and vultures, hunting and ravaging APC and his government. May God bless Nigeria.
And this is the much we have for you today on the segment. Keep sending your contributions to us. Send them through to us to politicalplatform@yahoo.com.
Thank you very much for your mails. Keep sending them, and we'll share it with our listeners. It is no longer news that Winnie Mandela, the former wife of former South African President Nelson Mandela, died on Monday at 81. But there's an interesting development. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said a memorial service will be held for Winnie Mandela on April 11, and a state funeral will take place in Johannesburg on April 14. If you know anybody who is familiar with the ANC, the ruling party in South Africa, is that some of their key figures, particularly those anti-apartheid crusaders, they usually honor them in a manner that you would think they died as even as the president of the country. Even at the time when they were not in government and they were still fighting the apartheid regime in South Africa. When Chris Hani died, and the ANC had a ceremony for him as if he was a president. Chris Hani was one of those leading lights of ANC during the apartheid struggle, and it sends one message across Africa that if you perform well, you should be honored by your home government. Amishi.
Well, we expect the funeral to come, and of course, the people of not just South Africa and Nigeria are expected to pay their last respect to a woman who has been a shining example to many others.
Yeah, we are now being joined by Dr. Shima Amadi. Amadi is the Executive Director of Independent Service Delivery Monitoring Group. His center, his group is a center for transparency advocacy, not just in governance, but also on electoral matter. He has just released a publication on electoral elections in Nigeria for 2015, and of course the subsequent election that took place after the general election in 2015. Thanks for joining us, Dr. Amadi.
Thank you, the crew of the platform. Good morning.
Yeah, you released a report. Can you tell us the highlights of that report on elections in Nigeria?
Yes, the report you titled it Beyond 2015. Like you know, after the 2015 elections, Nigerians felt that for once that something significant had happened, and that the deployment of technology significantly affected the outcome of the elections, and the people hoped that we could, follow that footsteps and continue to get our elections right. One or two things happened shortly after, but what we did in the report was to capture elections, major elections that have happened post 2015. And the highlight of that, the report was to state, number one, that it seems like the new INEC is deciding to follow the rules of the game by the letter, which was the reason why initially we were talking about inconclusive elections. And that was because the INEC decided that any infringement or infraction on election rules and procedures would not be tolerated. Secondly, a trend of voter buying was also documented. And then the new trends, emerging trends of, simultaneous voting and election, transmission of election results through technology were also highlighted. But most importantly, determination of the INEC to conduct elections of 2019 better than 2015.
Yeah, let me from your findings. You say INEC seems to be following the law rigidly now. From your findings and the open convention of a top political leader in this country, a former deputy Senate president, saying that he has helped to rig election, he has helped to bribe electoral officers, he has helped to bribe security officers on polling days. How do you juxtapose that we may not run, even if INEC is following the rules, the attitude and conduct of politicians may still prove a hindrance in our quest for transparency and credible election?
One of the findings of our report is that while the INEC and other players in the value chain seems to be up and doing and trying to, up their game in terms of preparations and conduct of elections, we have also, the report finds out that the security operatives have actually descended to new lows. Some of the elections we observed, we noticed that security, especially the police, to be precise, have not stepped up their game in reciprocation of the performances of other players. And why we say this is because if a top member of a political party on national TV confesses to having committed crimes against the state, because election rigging is a very high crime, you would expect that immediately that person steps out of the studio, that person should have been arrested or invited for some chat. Now, we have noticed a trend in the new INEC where 205 members of its staff, for the first time ever, the INEC took steps to, cleanse its own house by interdicting these individuals and sending them to the prosecution authorities to prosecute them. You would expect, therefore, that the police or authorities that's in charge of these things should by now have summoned this individual for some questioning and possible prosecution. There is no time bound to issues like this, time limit to issues like this, especially when it is a self-confession. So I expect that by now, that if machinery are going to be put in place to invite this individual for questioning and possible prosecution, then it has to be done to instill confidence in the process. INEC is cleansing his house. I think others in the value chain should follow suit.
All right. So, what were your findings also with regard to underage voters? Was it also in connivance with security agencies?
Yes, the truth of the matter is this, and we have to make this clear, that the voters registration, the voters register that is currently in use right now, was the same voters register in 2011. It's the same voters register that was used in 2015. That voters register is not a register. Yes, there are evidence which as seen by some of our observers, that certain individuals that are voted not just underage voters, even individuals that are not Nigerians have had access to some of these the PVCs to now become eligible for voting, which should not be so.
So, Dr. Amadi, what's your counsel to the political class in Nigeria?
What's my what?
Counsel for the political class in Nigeria.
Look, elections are very critical to national development. And as long as we do not get it right, we cannot move forward. The current state where people are calling them what is not what we need. We need the political class to put concrete manifestos of what they want to do to move our country forward, rather than these issues of going back and forth, insulting and hitting of the polity.
You seem to have high and good opinion of the Electoral Commission, INEC. The main opposition party, PDP, recently said it doesn't believe in the capacity and ability of INEC to conduct a credible election in 2019. Dr. Amadi, did you get my question?
Well, it seems as if we have lost him. I'm sure we'll link up with him now that we are in the mood of the politics is in the air in the country, and politicians are getting set for 2019 election, and even there are going to be some elections in some states, particularly for before that, and then even some vacancies in the House of Representatives and the Senate. So we'll be getting in touch with Dr. Amadi.
Bayo, I actually wanted to ask him about the use of technology, because that's what we are going to use in 2015. I mean 2019. I beg.
Yeah, we will see.
INEC needs to do more on that, because a lot of persons have emphasized in the elections conducted post 2015, because either their fingerprints were not read by the card reader, or the network of the card reader was not functioning properly, and during collation of results they cancelled so many results. We wouldn't want to see such thing in 2019.
Yeah, we're monitoring all those developments, and that much we can bring to you today. We thank you for investing your time with us. We ask you to join us same time tomorrow. On behalf of my colleagues, have a wonderful, wonderful day. I am Adebayo Bodunrin.